Bro, alright. They didn't want your boy to be great, but it's okay, we back. It's okay, we back, we back, we back. Alright. Well, I guess
Nothing in the game.
I guess we're done with look maxing. Guess looks maxing is out of the question now because they didn't want me to be great. They did not want me to be great. Roger that. Roger that. That was crazy. They just said, you know what? You had a good run, buddy. You had a good run. Goodbye. Sheesh. That was ridiculous. Actually, and your boy was cooking too, but it's all right. Um, One thing that I definitely wanted to say was that we have to start looking at the overall idea, and what is causing for a lot of these guys to do this, right? And it starts to become concerning, obviously, because guys are taking these levels of risk, taking very high level of risk in order to just satisfy, honestly, their own mental compass. Because at the end of the day, when you take away the incentive for men to want to actually do something, there comes a decision that most men have to face. And this is where a lot of men start to hit that point where they either go into their villain arc or they go into a point where they actually um hold on. Sorry. Just want to get this into. So there comes a point where they start to hit that villain arc, right? And or they have the choice between going through their villain arc or trying to still reach that level of duty, honor, and integrity that society still wants them to strive for, but don't reward them for it. And when you think about this, it starts to really open your eyes to a lot of the decisions that lead to men starting to withdraw or men starting to go to the extremes, such as looks maxing, in order to actually feel as though they have accomplished something or feel as though they have become more valuable to society because the doors do open the more attractive that you are. I mean, even for me, when I actually grew my hair out to a certain degree, a lot more options started to open up. People started to come up to me more, talk to me more. Um, More people wanted to be friends with me, be cool with me. So it definitely has its advantages. And that's the thing that people are missing too, is that when you do looks max though, even though you want to say that it's dumb, it's stupid, there's no way it makes any sense to be doing this, like you're going to see the benefits of maximizing your looks. Regardless of what anybody wants to say, the better that you look, the more likely you're going to have opportunities available to you because people are going to naturally want to be near you. I mean, you even see it in babies. Babies don't, or babies generally don't tend to cry, or they go to people that they deem as more attractive or as friendly, so to say. Um, so it's just a natural thing that humans do. And when you see the benefits and there's an actual incentive to looks max, you start to really analyze what your options are. Well, I can go to work, do my best, try my hardest, maybe go to the gym and put on a couple pounds of muscle, 1 or 2 pounds of muscle, and kind of work my way up to see if I can get the things that I want in life. Or before I say while society is telling you that you're not good enough, you're the problem, you cause a lot of the issues in society, and you're dangerous and a predator. That's basically how society is viewing young men. And then you have the other option of saying, you know what? You know what? I'm feeling kind of jokerish right now. I'm feeling like um I need to start hitting that villain arc and really start maximizing on the things that actually provide me leverage. And in order for a lot of these how should I put this? In order for a lot of the guys to actually be like, you know what? I'm gonna start going back to the old ways and really try and keep that integrity and not maximize and put myself in danger and hopefully get the short term benefits of what it means to looks max. The only way that you're going to be able to do that is if you actually provide the incentive for young men to do it. Because when you remove that incentive, they're just going to naturally say, you know what, I'm good, love. Like I don't need this. We don't need that. They're either going to crash out, bail out on the situation, or they're going to just maximize their opportunities and put themselves in the best position to succeed. And if that means taking testosterone, well, so be it. Now, the reason that I had stated that there is the opposing factors to men and their options in terms of where they should go. This game Pragmata had recently came out, and it is a game which the video will help explain, where a marine goes out into space to check out on a space station, and he finds a android girl that he looks to protect throughout the story. And the overall basis of the game is obviously him protecting the young girl, as well as trying to figure out what happened on this moon base. But what ended up happening, at least on social media, was that people started to name this game as a game that was made for guys that do not have good intentions, especially when there is, children involved. And it starts to make you wonder how there were men out here that played this game, enjoyed this game, and they had said, you know what? This game actually made me want to be a father. It made me want to start a family because of how good the game was and the bond that the Marine, as well as the android, had built. The android girl had built. And you start to see it play out in the game. Now, granted, I didn't play it yet, but the fact that the media, social media, and a lot of the people online are saying that this is a game that, like, all the men that are saying, like, oh yeah, it makes you want to be a father, are terrible incel men that only want to, and they're just violent creatures that want to cause harm to these people, are insane. It's an insane narrative. It's something that doesn't really add up. And also, I wanted to keep in mind, like, okay, well, we didn't get this kind of rhetoric when God of War came out, when it's a father son game going through the hardships of life. We didn't have that, right? They also didn't have it in, what was another game? Definitely, I forgot. But God of War is definitely one of those games that is very similar in terms of theme and ideology, but now it's gotten to the point where wanting to be a father is questionable or predatory. Let's watch the video and see what the overall consensus was.
Sometimes a game comes out and people are completely normal about it. They enjoy it, they praise it, and then they move on with their lives. Unfortunately, every now and again, a game comes out that causes people to lose their minds over the weirdest things, guys. And that, my friends, brings us to today's topic, which is Capcom's newest game, Pragmata. So I've been playing it myself. I think I'm almost maybe halfway through or so. I don't really know, but what I can tell you is I'm having a blast. The elevator pitch, without really ruining or spoiling anything, is you play as a guy named Hugh, who's this like soldier repairman kind of guy, who arrives on the moon with his squad of teammates from Earth to fix this lunar station, which is the setting of the game. You enter the station and nobody is there. In a lot of ways, this game kind of begins a lot like Dead Space 1 does. And eventually you figure out, oh yes, something bad has happened here, alright, and there's robots who have gone crazy that are trying to tear you apart. But the game is not a horror game, but anyways, a moonquake happens, you're separated from everybody and you fall down a big hole, and you're saved by this little robot girl who heals your wounds using 3D printed tech. Hugh then names this girl Diana because her long factory code name starts with the letters D and I, and then Hugh quickly becomes protective of Diana as well. And then these two go on an adventure on this lunar station where everything is 3D printed and the environments in the game are awesome. The gameplay is also great, and the game is probably one of my favorite games of the year so far, I also got to admit. Hugh and Diana's relationship is just wholesome. It's full of tender, cute moments where Hugh will cheer on Diana and they will like high five. And Hugh will explain stuff to Diana, like the concept of family and what the ocean feels like to step in, because naturally they're on the moon. A lot of people online are calling the game Dad Space because it's basically Dead Space, but you're a dad to a little robot girl, but the game is also not scary at all. It just has that classic Capcom finish to it instead. The game also aesthetically reminds me a lot of the game Vanquish. That's a great game, by the way, if you haven't played that one either. And overall, yeah, man, I think Pragmata is great so far. But apparently, if you like Pragmata, well, you're kind of a criminal now. Because Pragmata is apparently, according to some people online, a bad and very problematic game because it promotes child, how do I say this without getting demonetized? Child, you know what. You know what I'm saying, which is insane to categorize this game as, by the way. And if you enjoy Pragmata, it's because you're a fan of seeing little girls do things, and you're also being called a lolly, which I didn't even know what that meant. Apparently, lollies are like child-looking characters that are also adults, which, from what I understand in Pragmata, that is not the case here at all. Diana is a robot girl, but she's permanently, from what I understand, a child in frame too. Even the way she thinks and acts are that of maybe like a 5 or 6-year-old at best. But nothing in the game whatsoever insinuates any sort of problematic or weird, fetish undertones at all. The game takes place in what's called the
My issue is also is that like why is it that like whenever it involves women in games that it has to be some weird operation going on like men are trying to get this weird, you know, like fantasy for all of these like gamer girls. Like, girls play video games too. Like, I don't understand why there's so many of this like, oh, there's a girl in the game, these guys are trying to have like weird stuff going on with these. Like, why? We just want to play video games. Like, you can't have female characters in video games now? Like, jeez. What happened to the females that actually want to play video games? Like, what's going on here?
cradle, an obvious nod to where a child is kept where they're born and all that. And as you play the story, this makes more sense why it's called that. And the various evil robots are all over, and there's 3D printed environments that run on something called Luna filament in the game. Basically, the moon's surface is filled with this Luna filament stuff, and the unique properties of the moon's environment, I guess, allows humanity in this game to use the resources found there to replicate anything they want using advanced 3D printing technology. It's really cool. That's why in the game there's like trees and simulated oceans, or an entire section of the game where it's a 3D printed replication of New York City to explore. It's all created using the material that is found on the moon that's funneled through advanced, I guess, nanotech or something. Who cares? Whatever. It's not real. It's cool, alright? And it just gives you the excuse to have fun environments like happen in a video game after all, right? But the fact that there are still those out here trying to say the game is somehow something that it isn't is the real problem here. And it proves to me anyways how these activist types, they hate anything that goes against their weird, skewed perception of life. Because at its core, in my opinion, Pragmata is all about family and the bond between a father and a daughter. And it's not what these weirdos on the internet are saying at all. Like, Hugh is not some creepy, weird old guy. He's a 40-year-old soldier who wants to protect Diana at all costs from the evil robots. Yes, I know the obvious ties to something like Joel and Ellie in The Last of Us are very applicable here, or Kratos and Atreus as well, that works too. The whole narrative synergy of old grumpy guy meets young optimistic kid who teaches him how to live again gimmick that
I also think like the notion of family has been very compromised lately, and people wanting to build families, people wanting to, you know, go the extra mile for family and losing that community, as I've said in previous videos as well, it causes for like just this weird energy. And like you just naturally have a lot of these weird things that happen. I mean, the internet's a weird place, but you just naturally have a lot of these like ideologies that are pushed that like if you had a family and if you like were in something that was actually like a community and something that was long term, you would understand that a lot of these kind of notions and narratives are just like don't make any sense. Like we're talking about a video game where there's a soldier protecting an android girl from robots. Like a lot of these kind of ideologies, tropes, and ideas have been going on since the longest amount of time, since the biblical days of men protecting women in times of stress, times of distress. Like it just doesn't make any sense as to how you just naturally come up with the idea that men, after playing this game, saying that they want to be fathers, are now like problems. and they don't have any good intentions. Like it doesn't make any sense to me at all. But let's continue.
we've seen before. But hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. You know what I mean? Because it works in Pragmata the same way it does in Last of Us and God of War. But like I said, you have weirdos that are trying to push their politics onto Pragmata and make it into something that it isn't. Like this user on Twitter, appropriately named Ghoulhag, as you can see here, who believes that Diana's design is problematic because she's in a game marketed at male gamers, and that art was made of her that you know what on Reddit as well. And as the response there says, the other user says that Diana looks like they put a model face on a little girl body, which that's just not true. And Ghoulhag, again, perfect name for these takes by the way, says that Diana looks like a you know what's perception of a child. Again, these people have not played the game, because if they did, they would realize that nothing that they are projecting is true at all. First of all, problematic images being made of characters, that is everywhere. That's across any fandom. I think it's gross, by the way, and I don't support that at all. It doesn't surprise me that Diana's character model was subjected to that same treatment like every other character in existence these days too, but also it's Reddit. And Reddit is, who are we kidding, full of weirdos. So that is unfortunately not surprising at all, like given like the best of days. But trying to paint Capcom's new game as some Trojan horse of lolly, whatever you want to call it, is just kind of insane massive cope that proves that these activist types' brains are so fried from the state propaganda that they consumed their entire lives that to even see a father and daughter act like family in their presence, that it's foreign and alien to them. What I do think.
Listen, guys. I mean, he's definitely preaching right now, and I think that like overall, we have to really start like bringing it back to reality just a little bit. Like I know we want to be plugged in and enjoy the content that a lot of people push out, and we can get stuck within the social media bubbles and even the bubbles that we put ourselves in based on the algorithms. But we definitely have to come to a point where it's like, all right guys, like let's start realizing that everything isn't about some agenda. Like just calm down. Like it doesn't always have to be about some crazy agenda. Maybe someone just wants to tell a good story, right? Maybe someone just wants to express themselves in a way that allows for us to enjoy a game but still reflect on what's like important in life, And being able to take that away from a game rather than try and look at it as some political angle is going to be a lot more fun when you actually play the game than trying to make everything political and stressing yourself out and getting into these comments and Reddit threads that just cause for rage bait and just more problems all the way around. So, when it comes to the gaming sphere, though, I did want to speak about the game review that IGN had put out for Mouse PI for Hire. And I think this goes back to some of like the political idea. It's not necessarily political, but I think when you start to analyze something not for the quality that it provides and what it actually can give to people, and you start looking at it as some like the overall consensus for this review is something that I just as a gamer just can't agree with, because there's no way that you're playing this game and you're someone that has played just various types of games or someone that has played plenty of games to say that what he says in this review is worth a the score that he gives, because this game, and I've been playing it. You guys had actually seen it on stream. If you guys check in the Mouse PI midday Mouse PI stream, you would actually see me playing it, and it's a very enjoyable game. I enjoy it a lot. It's definitely something that's good for a time where you're just chilling and not really trying to think too hard about a video game. You just kind of want to get immersed in a world, but you still want to not feel like you're getting beaten down by the world. And I think there's a good combination of the theme as well as the fun that the game actually provides that this review doesn't necessarily highlight in the best capacity.
I love noir. I'll take all kinds. The hard-boiled detective, the seedy crime story, neo-noir, classic pulp, you name it, I'm buying.
Okay. Okay.
So when Mouse PI for Hire sauntered onto my screen the way Ilsa walks into Rick's in Casablanca, I was pretty excited about it. But noir isn't just an aesthetic to be thrown on like an old coat as you're leaving your office at the behest of a leggy blonde. While Mouse PI for Hire clearly understands the style and tropes of classic noir films and novels as well as 1930s cartoons more broadly, it doesn't seem to get why those things are there or how they're used to tell compelling stories. By fusing a hard-boiled detective mystery with a fast retro-styled FPS, developer Fumi Games has made a shooter that is thematically incoherent, with the apparent aspirations of its story contradicted at every point by the actual action.
You see, and I think this is the issue too, is that people are looking at video games as if they're supposed to be movies. Video games and movies are two completely separate things, right? If I wanted the full theme of a particular show or movie, I would just watch movies. But if I want to have fun as if I'm in that movie, then I'm going to go play video games, right? So, because video games do not necessarily keep you locked within the theme of the movie, not all games are going to be 100% what a movie would portray. Most games are spin offs of a lot of these things. So, for you to say that it's thematically contradictory, like, is it though? It's a video game. We got to make it fun somehow, right?
Of all the Steam libraries and all the PCs in all the world, Mouse PI for Hire walked into mine, and I wish I
And also the cartoon theme, like I feel like in a lot of like these old school black and white cartoons, like you're going to get a lot of like the toonish and like jokey kind of um violence within the game. So I feel like it's very much along the theme, but
liked it more than I do.
It's over. You got nowhere left to run. I run toward the dream. A bright future ruled by big mice.
Mouse follows Jack Pepper, a private eye in a world where everyone is a mouse, after Wanda Fuller from the Mouseburg Herald sets him on the case of a missing magician.
I can give you more than a crumb, Jack. I can give you a magician.
As you'd expect, that spirals into a much bigger conspiracy that includes an attempt on a mayoral candidate's life and racially motivated mouse-on-mouse violence as bigger mice oppress the smaller shrews.
My buddy got nabbed for just being a shrew.
Same as it ever was, even in Mouseburg. And the requisite twists and turns you'd expect from any good detective story make this tale solid enough.
I was in too deep. Way deeper than I signed up for.
What bothers me, however, is how overly referential so much of it is. The world is full of mice, so everything is about cheese. Everything. A bad guy? He's a cheese-legger.
These cheese-leggers in on the shrew racket.
Run into a lady mouse with a sultry voice? It'll be described as
Gorgonzola picante slapped on a mozzarella platter.
someone need to assure you they're telling the truth.
Swear on my mama's cottage curds.
This is charming initially, then it never stops. Everything is a reference to the fact that everyone is a mouse and mice like cheese, and when it's not, instead it'll be a reference to an old cartoon, or the fact that this is a video game.
When you jump, just act like you didn't.
I should have probably guessed the former when one of the first things I saw was a steamboat named Willie, but at least that and the reference-heavy power-ups are cute. Constant callbacks to classic films or other video games? Not so much.
my question is though, right? When you see a game called Mouse PI for Hire, what did you expect out of the game? It literally looks like a 90s cartoon, and like I don't understand. Like this is classic Looney Tunes, classic, you know, classic Mickey Mouse, all of those things that like that's how a lot of the cartoons were made. Like how is this not on theme? Like you're completely missing the whole point of the game. Like when you bought it, you saw it was literally made as a cartoon style noir game. Like there's a mix for that reason. And you're going to have the quirky cartoon style jokes, all of those things, while also having some of the seriousness of a noir film. So that's the part that like really boggles my mind about this review is that like you're going to say that the theme and all of these things are weird, but like that's the whole point of the game. Like I don't understand how you missed that.
And it doesn't end there. A boss fight in the sewers, it's a literal alligator because of course it is. If you're looking for the cheese-liking foreman, Jack will quip that he doesn't look like much of a boss.
More like a mini-boss.
And then laugh at his own joke. The voice actors, led by Troy Baker, do an admirable job with what they have, but nothing in Mouseburg is allowed to just be. It has to be a mouse reference, or a literally cheesy one-liner.
Cheddar, what's wrong with Gouda?
No good if you broke, Jack.
Or a reference to something else.
Ticket seller, I'm going on a perilous journey, so I need your strongest tickets.
It's hard to care about anything in Mouse PI for Hire because it never stops making jokes about everything.
Here's Jacko.
It just wants to remind you of other better things. Surely that's enough, right?
Time to find someone higher up and squeeze until they suck.
At least the shooting is better. This is the latest in a wave of boomer shooters inspired by old school FPSs like Doom or Quake, and it's a decent one at that. You start with a pistol in Jack's fists, but you'll soon acquire a shotgun, dynamite, a James gun, which is just a Tommy gun, and more unique stuff like the Devarnisher, which shoots what looks like Elmer's glue that melts the flesh from your enemy's bones, leaving only a skeleton. Throw in stuff like a double jump, dash, spinning tail for hovering, and a slide, and Jack's got some stylish moves when the bad guys show up. This ain't Quake, but it does feel good. It doesn't hurt that all of it, from reload animations to random conversations, is rendered in an absolutely gorgeous black and white mix of sprite work and 3D models. The world building may be thin, but Mouse PI for Hire is still dressed to the nines. Even here, though, I have issues. Weapons can feel weak, especially the shotgun. It's got the audio kick of a pop gun, and there's a strange disconnect to seeing something that sounds like a kid's toy blow off some poor mouse's head as you paint the white of the world with black ichor that spews from his neck. Enemies mostly come out of doors running to the skull that you can't enter, robbing these areas of anything remotely resembling a sense of place. Levels also really like to pull the "we're gonna lock you in a room and throw baddies at you until they're dead or you are" shtick a little too much for my taste. None of this is game-breaking. The combat is fundamentally good enough to carry you to the end of the roughly 12-hour campaign, but sometimes it feels like being at a show that's never quite bad enough to leave. And at least on the normal difficulty, health items are so generous there's rarely a challenge. Like any good boomer shooter, there are plenty of secrets to find: newspapers, weapon upgrade schematics, baseball cards, and so on. Fragile walls to blow up, and even locked safes to open with your tail, which pulls double duty as a lockpick. Some of these locks are on a time limit, or must be solved in a limited number of moves, and you only get one shot at the good stuff they hold. Others are so easy you could probably solve them by letting an actual mouse run across your keyboard. It's very jarring. Once you're done with the level, it's back to the hub, which encompasses Jack's office, the local bar, store, weapon upgrade shop, and so on. My favorite thing here is the baseball card minigame you can play at the bar. You'll switch between pitching and being at bat, and using the cards in your hand, players and abilities, to try to score as many runs as you can. It's fun. What I like less is the whole being a detective thing, mostly because I never actually got to do it. Any clues you find will be pinned to Jack's caseboard, and once you get them there, Jack will just intuit where to go. No work on your part required. What's the point of being a gumshoe if all the answers are handed right to me?
Better check it out.
But like, see, and this is the question that like I would really have for him, right? So you're gonna say that the movie aspect or the thematic aspect of this game doesn't necessarily align with a noir theme, right? But most of the time in a noir movie, they will give you bits and pieces of when they're actually starting to solve parts of the story, right? Obviously, you're going to have your own thoughts and ideas when you're playing the story, but you're going to have bits and pieces where they're going to explain it for you so you're able to understand exactly where the story is going. And you're supposed to find those clues hidden without the levels. Like, I don't understand why everything has to be a big, massive puzzle that's so hard to figure out that we gotta challenge ourselves. Like, it's a cartoon noir shooter, guys. Like, we have to understand what this game is.
Out. It began with a call. Routine. Familiar.
That brings me to one of my major problems with Mouse PI for Hire. Look, I hate to be that guy who brings up ludonarrative dissonance in a video game review in the year of our Lord 2026, and if you're rolling your eyes right now, I can't blame you, but it's an actual issue here. Jack Pepper is a PI who kills more people in a single mission than Philip Marlowe has in every book Raymond Chandler ever wrote combined. I don't care how corrupt the cops are. A private detective can't break into a police station and slaughter them en masse and then go about his day. In one particularly nonsensical scenario, Jack inadvertently burns down an opera house to save a guy running for mayor, and he ends up fighting an opera singer and shoots her? Is she dead? Did I just kill an actress for being angry I burned down her workplace? If I didn't, have I left her alive and unconscious inside a burning building?
Well, Billy still did get blown to Kingdom Come.
Mouse PI for Hire doesn't tell me, and it doesn't seem to care either way.
Forget it, Jake. It's Chinatown.
None of this is to say that noir cannot or should not be violent, but the violence usually has a purpose. Much of Elliot Chase's seminal novel Black Wings Has My Angel is about robbing an armored car, but the book builds to that. It's a big deal when it finally happens, and the characters have to reckon with the fallout once it does. Jack Pepper, on the other hand, is a walking catastrophe, and nobody in Mouseburg seems to care. He largely gets to go about his business and is portrayed as a down-on-his-luck everyman PI, like the characters who inspired him, when he is, at best, a mass murderer.
You implying something, Mr. Pepper?
Me? Imply? Never. I just connect the dots.
Does that make for a more fun video game? Maybe. But it's bad noir and a worse detective tale. In the story as Mouse PI for Hire references, violence is an unfortunate but unavoidable part of the human experience that shatters the people it touches. Here, it's just entertainment, and that weakens the whole concept. But Will, you might say, this is a goofy Looney Tunes FPS. Why should I care about any of that? And the answer is because Mouse wants you to. It wants you to believe that this is important. You spend a lot of time talking about these characters, about putting together the clues you need to get to the bottom of what's going on, about Jack's motivation for doing the work. He allegedly needs the money, which both leads him to taking cases and doesn't track when I'm super rich from all the killing.
Nonsense. You're drowning in debt, picking up small fries and petty cases.
All of that makes a lot less sense after you've gone to Tinsel Bros Studios and single-handedly eradicated the mob hanging out there, all while doing a bunch of Tomb Raider / Indiana Jones / Conan the Barbarian impressions, as everyone says you should be an actor.
So tell us, hero, what is best in life?
To grate some parm, watch the cheese melt, and hear the joyful squeaks of my dinner guests.
Give this guy a week on the job as chief of police in Mouseburg would be the safest city in the world because nobody would be left alive to commit crimes in the first place. It's hard to buy into Jack as the regular guy who needs to gather evidence I'm told he is when he just wiped out the local police department, you know?
The police barcade. We sure went big on this.
Yeah, but at the same time, like, okay, let's say you made the game in the way that you're saying, right? Where he's not killing all the police, he's not doing as much killing. Like, at what point, then what does the game turn into? Just like a noir movie with mice and bad cheese jokes? Like, I just don't understand what doing all of that, and you know in the game that the police are corrupt. So you already have a corrupt police force, so who is he really working for, technically, right? If he's not working for himself or the citizens that live there, through a corrupt police force and a mob gang that is overrunning the city. Sounds very familiar, but I mean, the police may not be corrupt, but but it's like, what do you expect out of the game? How you gonna have fun in that? And if it's just a puzzle game, then like you're looking for the wrong game. Like I just don't see how the game has a great balance of putting you in situations where you can get the action, feel like you're immersed in an action-packed gunfight, and then still give you the aspects of being in a nice noir movie and putting a puzzle together and understanding what the story is unfolding to become. And in the way that he describes the game, it's almost as if you're just trying to take the complete soul of what the game is and try and replace it with a movie or something that doesn't necessarily fit what the game is meant to be. So
Mouse P.I. for Hire nails the aesthetics of both the 1930s cartoons and the detective stories that inspired it. And it's also an amusing boomer shooter that largely feels good as you're playing it. But its haphazard marriage of noir storytelling tropes and shooter gameplay are often at odds with each other in uncomfortable ways that weaken both aspects, and the writing is so busy making references to other things that it's actually painful to sit through at times. This FPS is solid enough if you just want to blast some cartoon mice and not think about it too hard, but once you do, all you'll see are the seams where disparate ideas have been fused together, and no trench coat can hide the stink of that moldy cheese.
that was by accident. But I think the okay review in a 6 is a little insane. I mean, in my opinion, if I was going to give somebody a brand new game to play and they've never played video games ever, but they want like a newer game, I honestly think, and he's not wrong, that the game is relatively easy, but I would probably give them this game to play because not only is it an easier game, you still understand the basic mechanics of gaming, and you also get a pretty decent storyline with some funny and cool characters involved in the actual story. Now, there's probably plenty of other games that you can introduce them to, but I wouldn't mind introducing someone to. Hold on, I don't like that. This is up. Whoa.
I love noir. I'll take all kinds.
I wouldn't mind introducing someone to something like this because, in my opinion, it just makes the most sense. Not the most sense, but it makes sense because at the end of the day, you're getting all the mechanics, double jumping, shooting, and fast movement while in high intense, while playing while puzzle games as well. So you're literally getting almost every aspect of most video games, and you got a card game in there. So you're getting almost every aspect of most video games in one game while still having fun and it being beginner friendly. Like, and you can increase the difficulties relatively well. So I just don't see how you're giving it a 6. In my opinion, if I was going to rate it, I'd probably give it an 8, 7 or an 8, because I do think that it sticks to what you're probably asking for, and you're also getting a good blend of both. I'd probably give it an 8, not only because it's good for beginners, but it sticks to its themes and it's actually very fun to play. There's plenty of games out here that IGN has reviewed and said it's been 9s and 10s, and you're just like, bro, like, nobody even wants to play that right now. Like, the games that, honestly, if you're going to look for games and you want to figure out, like, what reviews you should be looking at, go to IGN and pick the games that they think are bad. Because at the end of the day, the games that they think are bad are more likely than not the games that you probably want to play. So, but in speaking of games, reviews, and these top companies not really understanding their customers and the people that they are technically supposed to be working for, PlayStation has revealed some very interesting news. And it's getting very scary now for gaming. Luckily, I've removed myself from the console situation. But it is definitely getting scary for those that have consoles, at least the PS5, because what they just announced recently is absolutely crazy.
The hard-boiled detective, the seedy crime story.
Stop playing, bro. Stop playing.
PlayStation are trying.
And it is definitely unfortunate that the live had ended up cutting out. I'm not sure if it was the ABC news or if it was the potential music in the background. I'm assuming it was the ABC news clip, but that Looksmaxing clip definitely had to get played. So it is what it is. I feel like I was talking over it enough, but um, we shall continue and talk about this PlayStation operation. I'm actually going to let him start off, explain it, and then I'm going to give my opinions as to what I think about the situation.
Trying as hard as possible to be hated by everybody. It's almost impressive that just 1 week after we got a major win regarding video game preservation and especially respect for customers, customer advocacy, thanks to Ross Scott and Stop Killing Games over in the European Parliament, PlayStation has let slip their new DRM. Now, most of what I've seen online, both from Twitter rage bait to actual articles published by reputable sources, contain enormous amounts of misinformation. So let me start this video by setting the record straight. In line with the March and April PlayStation Terms of Service or TOS updates, PlayStation now require you to connect to the internet every 30 days at a maximum in order to verify that you have a license for the games that you have purchased digitally.
This right here would have been so bad playing at like my grandparents' house or my yo. I'm just thinking about all the times that if I didn't have internet, I wouldn't be able to play video games. What? Isn't that at the core of gaming? Just at any moment, as long as you got a console, controllers, some power, and a TV, that you can always have fun. Oh my gosh. And even in sometimes you don't actually need the TV, but now I have to rely on Wi-Fi to get my games? That right there, honestly. I mean, luckily Wi-Fi is such a prevalent thing or whatever, but it's just like, wow, just like the groundworks and the principles that built gaming are just shattering before our eyes due to corporate greed, and it's insane.
This is not retroactive, so any games that you have bought before March of 2026 are not affected by this. That means accept purchases you make now, install them on your PlayStation 5, throw your PlayStation 5 in your beach house or whatever, no internet connection required, you will turn it on and you will be able to play whatever you want on it, which is the way that things like the Switch 2 and Steam work. If you buy the game online and then use the internet to download it and launch the game, you could then be offline forever and the game will still function. That is, allegedly, we'll get into that in a minute, not the case with PlayStation anymore. New purchases will require you to connect to the internet in order to verify those licenses, which means that if you do have buying into their digital ecosystem, and speaking of that, the most important, you have, for example, a second console at a second house of yours or a second residence for when you go on holiday. If you have a second console for maybe kids and you don't have those online because you don't want them to have access to the internet, new purchases moving forward will require that console to connect to the internet in some capacity in order for those games to work. No, if you don't log in for 30 days, you don't just lose access to the game forever, which is how some people are understanding it. It isn't retroactive, so if you have PT installed on a PS4, relax, it's fine, but this is concerning. Now, you can probably guess by the time that it took for me to explain that it's not an everyday scenario. This isn't a problem that many people will encounter. And as you can tell from the mental gymnastics being done on the internet, a lot of people will have you believe that it is not a problem at all. And that if you are...
But my issue is too, I think he's probably going to address it, but let's say the Wi-Fi that you're on is not the strongest, right? Even if, let's say, like, okay, everybody has Wi-Fi, everybody should have the ability to access their games, and, you know, we're just going to assume that everybody could log on to the onto whatever online services that PlayStation needs in order for these games to run the licensing, right? The question comes when you don't necessarily want to connect to the internet and your internet is just not that good. And you maybe, because I remember back in the day, there were also times where I would be, at my grandmother's for a long period of time. And, I would download a game before I went to my grandmother's house because it wasn't necessarily the best Wi-Fi or internet connection. So I would download it at my house, go to grandma's house, and then be able to play all the games that I want to play in order to do what I got to do, but not play online, right? So what's gonna happen to those kids that have the games, have the consoles, and they want to go and play, or maybe don't want to always be online? You're gonna tell me that they have to go online at least once a month just to say that they're good money? Like, it doesn't make any sense to me at all. So, like, what? Like, how does this make any sense? You just sit there with your games, and now all of a sudden, bloop, no more for you. Good try, kid.
One of the people that could encounter this issue, just use your phone as a hotspot, connect to the internet real quick on your PlayStation, and then once it gets all the licenses, you have another 30 days to be offline. To the people claiming that, I have two things to say. Number one, we are the customer. We should not be required in any capacity to jump through hoops. The moment we give a company our money, they relinquish the rights, at least in my opinion, to make us jump through any hoops. And it doesn't matter if that hoop is planet Earth sized. There shouldn't be any. And the fact that before there weren't these hoops and now there are is an active attack on customers. That simple. And number two, saying that this is a small issue that currently only affects some people is missing the metaphorical forest for the not so metaphorical anti-customer practices and the future that this is paving the way for. So let me break some of those things down. By the way, hi, I'm Mug, and if you're new here, welcome. And if you're not new here, welcome back. You're looking fantastic. I'm very happy to see you. Today's topic, very important. Noise needs to be made, complaints need to be put out there, regardless of if this ends up being true or not. If you enjoy the video at any point, hit the like button, helps a ton. And if you like the way that I cover news, reviews, and essays on the video game industry, consider subscribing. Don't do so yet. Make sure that what I do is worth your time, and then press the button. That would be great. Let's talk about this. Now, there's a lot of very important groundwork to be set. Back in 2013, the Xbox One, upon its release, wanted to push an incredibly aggressive DRM practice, one that required the console to connect to the internet every day, which is indeed more frequent than every 30. But the main purpose of the Xbox One DRM was to tie actual physical discs to a console to shut down the, at that time, very popular resale market. This was such a catastrophic disaster that PlayStation one day later during their E3 presentation clowned on Microsoft's decision and pivoted to make sure that there would be no DRM on PS4 so that you could share your games however you wanted, including reselling them. This is often cited as one of the main reasons for Xbox's downfall and the resurge of PlayStation after Xbox dominated during the 360 over the PlayStation 3. And why do I bring this up? Well, because this is an important issue for a lot of people. It was back in 2013, and it should be today in 2026. The reason it might not seem as important is that now there's been 13 years of people believing in PlayStation, buying into their digital ecosystem. And speaking of that, the most important thing here is 13 years of making everything digital. This has been the way forward and the way that console manufacturers want things to work. Case in point, Nintendo just recently announcing that their physical games are going to cost $10 more MSRP. Or if you'd rather look at it from the perspective of most people, who have to make careful purchasing decisions with their budget, buying digital comes with a significant discount. This is how it's always been, slowly pushing digital first in order to get rid of physical. Also that
I mean, he's not wrong. He's 100% true. At the end of the day, corporate greed has gotten to a level where it's starting to become almost insidious to a degree, because at the end of the day, we have to start looking at like how far are we going to really allow these companies to just do whatever they want? Like, how do the customers start to let these companies know, like, hey, yeah, you guys can't be doing this. Like, there's no way. Like, there's no way. You guys are telling me that you're going to potentially be forfeiting the games that you want to play in order to be, you have to be online in order to play them. And yeah, they may start with 30 days, right? Xbox maybe came out too aggressive, came out a little too wild. Every day you got to be online in order to play your games. That's a little too crazy right now. Hold on. Pump the brakes, right? But first, they're going to hit you with 30 days. Then it's going to be 2 weeks. Then it's going to be at least every week. Then it's going to be every day, because those servers, I guess, may get filled up with the licensing because everybody's downloading their games online in order for them to maintain the licensing and the servicing of the games. Those data centers are starting to get packed up, and they're like, well, you might have to start managing how many people could be online at a time for these games. That's what the future of gaming is going to look like. If we continue to allow these companies to do whatever they want, and they just kind of say, you know what, we're just going to keep moving forward. We're going to keep pushing digital, and the physical copies are going to be a thing of the past. And one thing that I realized in, being in a retro station where you have a lot of the classic games and a lot of the classic genres that you used to play, and having those physical copies to just put the disc in, load the game up, and you just get to straight to playing, right? It made me realize the novelty that used to have. You would buy a game at GameStop, do what you needed to do, and then you would come home, pop that game in there, and you're just waiting for that intro screen to pop up on your screen, whether it was PlayStation, whether it was, Nintendo, hearing the Mario sound, or the PlayStation, and it just loads up and you're ready to go, whatever game it was. So it's really starting to get to a point where not only in gaming, but in other facets of life, where like the customers are going to have to start pushing back, because we're starting to get to a point where games, any kind of content or media is going to be controlled in one way or another, and the customer is going to lose more and more of its power to fight back. The corporate greed is getting insane. PlayStation now thinks it has the audacity, when there's Steam and all these other platforms, to just say, yeah, guys, you got to make sure you log in. Like, no, I don't want to do that. I want to download my game and know that I will have my game. Or you guys need to start making physical copies again. Like, that's the only two answers right now. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. And especially for the young generation, you guys got to watch out. They're going to start putting your games on online service only, and you're only going to be able to play if you connect to the servers, and that's going to be just for regular story mode games sooner rather than later. And it's going to be real sad when they say, you know what, we're done with gaming, and shuts everything off, and you can't get access to any of your games. But You guys should definitely check out the video. He definitely goes more in depth into the situation with PlayStation, and it's getting crazy out here in these streets, man. We had a lot to talk about. We had a hiccup, but this is one of the first few streams, so we're gonna keep learning, keep getting better, keep striving to do bigger and better things, and I shall catch you guys in the next live stream and in the next video. So as always, stay glitched. Out.